How do you find a vertex?
Where they both.
Negative b over 2a.
Yeah, there's a formula for it. H, which is your x-coordinate, is found by using opposite b over twice a. Kids, you are in a formula-intensive class. When I give you a formula, guess what you have to do? You have to memorize it. There's no ifs, ands, buts about it. You have to memorize it. So we're going to use opposite b over 2a. If you glance at this thing, all you got to do is just go in order. The first number you see is going to be A. The second one's going to be B. The third one's going to be, if there was a fourth one, what letter would it be? B. That's how it works. So if I glance at it, what's A?
Negative 32.
What's B?
3,176.
There you go. Daniel's got it. So what's opposite of a positive 2176?
Negative.
Negative 2176. It's going to be sitting over twice a negative 32. You're pushing buttons over there, aren't you? Oh, what'd you get? Pushing buttons. I'm just curious if you can use your calculator right. Some kids can use calculator right. What'd you get, Gordon? 34. 34 is the right answer if you're pushing buttons, seeing if you can use calculator right. Some kids can't use them right. They do funny things. Some kids try to do too much at once. They don't know how to use parentheses right. They do funny things. Should get 34. Now, what you know is you know what price maximizes revenue. Once you figure out what price maximizes revenue, how do you find out the revenue? Plugging it back in. That's right. Since you know the price is $34, everywhere you see a P, 34 cents, pesos, marks, we don't know what currency is. Since you know it's 34, everywhere you see a P, what do you replace it with? 34. 34 bucks seems like a lot of money for a pocket, doesn't it? Maybe it's 34 cents. All we know is 34. Could be a peso. What country uses the peso? There we go. I'm just curious if you Spanish learned this new or not. So you plug in a 34. I would never ask you to do this on a calculator in your possession. What is the maximum revenue for this company by selling copies? You're going to be a little too late now. Well, what did you get, Thor?
$528,000.
No.
Oh, I did.
No, I don't think so. Memory might be failing me, but I thought it was 52,998.
54,992.
54,992, that's right. Yeah, I told you my memory was failing me. 54,992. Okay, since you want to have calculators, we'll do the other problem in your notes that requires a calculator. This is going to be the last one. So jump all the way to the back of your notes. Rocket problems. If you do your homework packet, this particular problem is about launching a kid from catapult. Anyways, it's along this line right here. This is the last thing in your notes. The height of a model rocket is modeled by the equation. Height as a function of x is negative 16 times x squared plus 256x plus 45. Where x is the number of seconds after liftoff. Question A is how high is the rocket's platform? Now this talks about the height of a model rocket. So as soon as this thing takes lift, this is the equation that runs it. If it's sitting on the platform, how much time has passed? Zero. That's a common sense thing. Time is zero. I wish everybody saw it that way, but the time is zero. So what do you let x be? You let x be zero. Not everybody can look at something and plug in a zero. The height of zero is negative 16 times the zero squared plus 256 zeros plus 45. Yes, 45. Now, if you have to work that out piece by piece, remember Jesus loves you very much. He will not judge you like I do, nor will he be sarcastic. But there's your height. 45 foot. I hope that clicks for some of y'all. I know it doesn't work for everybody. Plug it in zero. After how many seconds will the rocket be at its maximum height? Again, where does that happen? It happens at the vertex. How do you find the vertex?
Finding
Negative b over 2a. Opposite b over twice a. Jordan, what's b? 256. That's right. And Kai, what's a?
negative 16.
Negative 16. So we're looking at negative 256 over twice a negative 16. It should be 8. Some of you kids need to be pushing buttons. Some kids won't do 8. Some kids will get like 4-digit numbers.
How?
What do you mean how?
When I get the multiplication done?
No, I'll show you how to type it in. They do this. Negative 256 divided by 2, parentheses negative 16. Because that's how it's written on the board, right? Also wrong. They do too much. They think they can just push buttons in the calculator and get the answer right. Most people would do this, would do 256 over 32. But if you're going to use a calculator to do all your trains of thoughts, you have to know how to wrap things. Parentheses, 2 parentheses negative 16. Close. But you need to learn how to use calculators to get the right thing. You should be getting 8. All right? I mean, Chris thinks he's got a math, and he could have put a number in right earlier. We know when the rocket reaches its maximum height. How are we going to find the maximum height? Plug it in. Plug it in. It is actually the y corner of the vertex. You're not entirely wrong. But you plug it in. Height at 8 seconds has to be a negative 16 times an 8 squared plus 256 eighths. Add 45.
1,069.
Hey, right. Good for you. I thought you were stupid.
All right.
Oh,
That's traffic.
I don't think you're stupid. You understand that, right?
no, stupid.
No, I
And the broken clock is right there.
don't. He's right, 1,069 feet. So if you were in middle school and your rocket went 1,000 feet in the air, you'd be pretty stoked, wouldn't you? Apparently you guys were supposed to do that and then COVID hit.
Yeah, we didn't
Yeah,
get
you had to bring it up.
Yeah, we didn't get through that.
Is that the most disappointing thing in y'all's lives?
Yes.
Yeah.
You have a great life.
waited all middle school for it.
You have a great life. Well, that's the most disappointing thing in your life. Your life is amazing. All right, so that's the end of your notes. First and last has been done. That's how you read a book, isn't it? All right, so sadly, here's the stuff that actually is about today. 4.2, graphing quadratic functions in vertex or intercept form. So the prereq skill for this is an old thing. It was absolute value vertex form. Anybody remember what absolute value vertex form looks like?
A plus absolute value x minus
I
a.
keep shaking my head. No, you said A plus.
Huh?
No, started off wrong. I agree there's an A. Y equals A,
Is it just absolute value?
just absolute value.
X minus a
X minus H
plus k.
plus K. If you understood that form, you will understand today's form. If you did not understand that form, then this gives you a little reinforcement to maybe figure it out. Of course, we're not graphing V's, we're graphing parabolas. Vertex form is actually already there sitting in your notes, staring right at you. But it doesn't hurt for you to write it down. This is quadratic vertex form, a parentheses now, x minus h squared plus k. Why the square? Because it's a quadratic. The square makes it a quadratic. Everything works the same way it used to. I swear it does. Your vertex is still at HK. That's where it used to be, didn't it? Still there. A still kind of works the same too. I'm not going to use the word slope on this, but this is the initial average, as average starts with an A, rate of change. Ooh. I guess I could just say damn when that happened, right, Chris? That's our best word in school. 17 years old, doesn't make any sense to us. 16 years old, you're so what? Huh? Well, you can't say that in school, can you? No.
Yeah,
college.
I'm gonna say anything, it'd be more colorful than that.
Exactly, it should be. You're gonna cuss in school, make it worth it. All right, so it's gonna work the same way everything else always has, all right? Nothing's gonna change. Except we're not drawing V's, we're drawing U's, rebels. Let's make this one a little easier for you since it's your first one. Instead of having a negative half, let's just make it a negative 2. Y is negative 2 times x plus 2 squared plus 5. Olivia, do you know where the vertex is? Hmm? You're very close. You the 2 and the 5 are right, but what happens to that 2 when it leaves parentheses? Negative. Remember it always used to change sign? Still does. Change sign, keep sign. That's how it was with absolute value, that's how it is with this. That's how it'll be on the next thing, the thing after that, the thing after that. It stays constant. Plot that point back to rise 5. What little undrawn line always passes through the vertex? Line of symmetry. That's why we dash it. It's not really there. You understand that, right? And when you're using inequality symbols, the less than symbol or the greater than symbol is dashed because it's not actually there. Why we dash it? What's the equation of that line? X equals negative 2. A lot of kids are struggling with that. One kid told me they couldn't do that today. They couldn't give me the equation of vertical line because they didn't have Miss Buckley. Miss Buckley ain't got spit to do with it. That's a you thing. Verticals are always x equals. Now, you don't have to do this, but it's something I always like to go after because it's easy. How do you find the y-intercept? X equals 0. Because on the y-axis, what is x? 0. That's why you do it. So let's plug a 0 in this thing and see what we get back. Y would be negative 2 times 0, add 2 squared plus 5. Don't use your calculator on this. This is a non-calculator part. We already did the calculator stuff. It is not 13. This.
3.
Negative 3.
Negative 3. So where are we at? 0, negative 3, right here. That point is 2 units to the right of the line of symmetry. What else does that mean?
The other points to the left.
Other points 2 units to the left. There's 3 points. That's enough to draw a parabola, right? I want to go back to this. This is the initial average rate change. I'm using that word initial for a reason. It only holds as you run left or right 1 unit. That's all you can do in 1 unit. After that, it doesn't work anymore. But coming out of the vertex, I can fall 2 units and run 1. All right, that's why I said you don't actually have to go after the y-intercept. You can actually get 3 points pretty quick. But it doesn't work very well with fractions, which we'll get to in a little bit. So anyways, there's 5 points. That's enough to draw a parabola. Kind of missed my points. What's up next on that thing? Domain and range, probably? So I know this is hard for some kids to see, but if you were to keep drawing, would your pencil slowly move left forever? Would your pencil slowly move right forever? So if you're running left forever, where are you going to be? Negative infinity. And if you're running right forever, where are you going to be? There's your domain. Negative infinity to positive infinity. You could write set builder notation. X is an element of the real. Remember that notation? Range is going to be, you don't remember that notation?
X, E, R, or something.
Or curly braces, X bar, X is an element of the real.
Yeah, X, E, R.
You should be comfortable with that. I understand you may not want to be a math major, but you're also not college. Use notation like that. Range, values of y. Nothing falls for its entire life. What's the smallest value it gets to? Negative infinity. It actually started at its high value. What was its high value? 5. Bracket, good. 5 exists. You can read the 5. All right, there's your first one in vertex form. Any questions on it? Okay. We'll do another one. And we'll do something else. I'm going to leave this one alone with the fraction. Y is 1/2 of x minus 4 all squared. Take away 4. Schlitt, where's the vertex at? Yes, sir. Change sign, kept sign. Right there. I always put that point on there first. It makes it easier to write the equation from line of symmetry. Like, we're supposed to write. We didn't. I forgot. It's okay. Anyways, I plotted my line of symmetry. Turbo, what has to pass through? Sorry, I plotted my vertex. What has to pass through my vertex, Turbo? The dotted line, which we call the line of symmetry. Dotted line. All right, so can somebody write an equation for Turnbow's dotted line?
X equals 4.
X equals 4, good. Ariel, do you remember how to find a y-intercept? Katie, you remember how to find a y-intercept? That x equals 0. Keep writing until you know it, kids. Let x be 0. We're going to plug a 0 into that thing. And hopefully we'll get some back. It is 4. 0, 4 is my y-intercept. It's right there. It's 4 units left. Reese, what else you know? 4 units right. Where would that be at if it's 4 units right?
Eight, 8, 4.
8, 4. All That's 3 points, that's enough, but I want to talk about this again. That does not mean rise 1, run 2. I said initial slope, didn't I?
Yeah.
It has to be done within 1 block. Only works for the first block. I cannot rise 1 and run 2. Apparently I can't spell block either. But I can't rise 1 and run 2. I have to do it in the first block. I can only rise a half. That's all I can do. So within that first block, I can rise a half unit on both sides. Like I said, you don't have to do it. Okay? You don't have to. But you only get to go up half. I missed my point. Nothing more. But all it does is it tells you how it opens. Gives you a better idea of how it opens. But if the numbers are whole, it makes it pretty easy to do. What's the domain of that parabola? Guess what the domain of the next parabola will be? How about the domain of the parabola after that? Always negative a cosmic b. It will always, all of them run left, all of them run right. Range is the one that you have to do a little thought on. Range is your values of y. What's the lowest value of y the graph chooses? -4, I agree with that. Bracket -4, what's the highest value? Infinity. There you go. Done with graphing, at least for now. Next up, some word problems. We're going to do the second one. It's not really a word problem. Write the function in vertex form. So you're given an equation that's in standard form, and you're supposed to write it in vertex form. The easiest way to do this for y'all is given to you instructions. It says find the vertex by using opposite b over 2a. That's something we did yesterday. All right? We'll call the vertex h because that's what it is. So we're going to do the second one, not the first one. So if I look at the second one, what's a? 2, what's b? -4. So h has to be opposite b. What's opposite of -4? Sitting over twice a. 2 times 2, that's right. So 1. Now I have the x coordinate, better known as h. How do I find the y coordinate of the vertex, better known as k? Plug it in. Have x, plug it in. It is called k. K is going to happen when you plug a 1 in, twice a 1 squared, minus 4 1s, plus 6. What'd you get? 4. All right, so what you guys just learned is that your vertex is at 1, 4. You got this nice, cool little equation you can plug into. What's a? 2. That's actually the very first thing we figured out, wasn't it? If it was 2 up there, it's going to be 2 here. So a is 2. X take away what? 1. All what? Squared. A lot of kids, this happens, and I hate doing it. But you take a test and you write it out and it's not multiple choice and you don't have the square, it's wrong. Because if you don't put that square there, it's a quadratic. No, it's a line, that's what it is. Plus 2. That square is important. Without that square there, you'd have a line. I don't know if you understand that or not, but you would. You'd have a line. All right, there we go. That one's done. More than halfway through your notes. Take a look at another one of these. Write the equation of a parabola in vertex form. You're told the vertex and you're told a point on the graph is -1, 3. The instructions are there. Substitute the given information into vertex form. Y is a times x minus h squared plus k. So I'll sit down and do most of this one with you. Tell me something you can plug in. Plug in h and k. That's a very good place to start. So if you plug in h and k, I think you'd have y equals a times x what? Plus 4 all squared. Then minus 2. Anybody got any issues with that? If we need to talk about it again, we'll talk about it again. Change sign, keep sign. That's all you do. How many variables does that line have? 3. It's got 3 unknowns. You cannot figure out what a is with 3 unknowns. By the way, you understand you have to figure out what a is, right? That's the goal. There's more information given. There's another point. What do points give you? They give you specifically x and y. Order pairs always give you x's and y's. Everywhere you see a y, what do you get to be? Everywhere you see a y, what do you get to be? Everywhere you see an x, what do you get to be? Do a little math. How many a's do you have? You got more than one a there. Not 7. I know what you did. There's a 9 there. Negative 1 plus 4 is 3. 3 squared is 9. Then minus 2. I was hoping I'd hear that 7, because that's a very common mistake. A lot of kids do 9 minus 2, but that 9 is actually married to what? A. So 3 is 9a minus 2. What are you going to do with your counter? How are you going to counteract your subtraction? Addition. And what's that a value again? How are you going to counteract the multiplication? So what is a? 5/9. Not 9/5. 5/9. You know, when you wrote this line right here, you were pretty much close to being done, weren't you? Just plug a in. When you wrote that line right there, you basically had it. I swear if you were taking a multiple choice test, that would have got you to 50-50. There only been 2 choices that looked like that thing. Without really doing any math, right? If you can do that, you can probably get 50-50. All right, so plug back in. Y is 5/9 of x plus 4 all squared. Take away a 2. That one's done. So now that you've seen enough of that, it's time to do something different. Up next in your notes is what we call the intercept form. Your form quiz has general intercept form, which is a little bit longer than this, because this is a quadratic. Quadratic can only touch the x-axis twice. So there's quadratic intercept form. A times x minus p times x minus q, where p and q are x-intercepts, which is not typed out there. I hope you understand what xint means. Something in your eye? You wear contacts? Almost looked like you had an eyelash in there. All right, so I've got you a little default parabola up here. I drew the line of symmetry on it. What lies on the line of symmetry? Vertex. And it has an h coordinate and a k coordinate. Is that line of symmetry smack dab in the middle? How do you find the middle of two things? That seems more the same as divided in half. The middle of two things.
Greater distance than
Say your grades are an 80 and a 90. What's your average?
add together.
Add together and divide by 2. Find the middle of two things, you add them, and you divide by what? 2. So the x-coordinate, better known as h, is p plus q over 2. If you have h, the x-coordinate, how do you find k, the y-coordinate? I know you're doing way too much work. You have x, you have x, how do you find y? You has x, how do you find y? Plug in. Every class today has just gone dumb on that. To find the y coordinate, you plug x in. To find k, you plug h in. I mean, every class. There hasn't been a single class the first person guessed that. It's the craziest thing. Somebody gives you x, asks you to find y. What do? Plug it in. Is that ever going to be changed? Is it ever going to be any different? You guys got thrown off by P's and Q's, didn't you? All right, so let's do one of these. We're going to change the numbers so it looks better, because these numbers will create fractions. We just can't have that, can we? All right, so now it's 2 times x plus, and I actually want to change them a little bit more too, because I want the numbers to be better than they are. Change that to a 1 and a 3. Go with 1 and 3. Plus 1 minus 3. Leave the 2 where it's at. There's a couple of different ways of showing you how to get your x-intercepts. First way is to line up your form. Form is a times x minus p times x minus q, and most of you can probably grasp it from that. If you line up with your form, it's just like we've been doing, okay? What's one of the x-intercepts, p? Not 1. Negative 1. One of them is negative 1. What's the other one, q? 3. Did you leave parentheses with a number? Did you just leave parentheses with a number? What happened to its sign? Changed. Every time you leave a set of parentheses with a number, its sign changes. It's just how it is. Some of you might understand the other way of teaching this. How do you actually find a y-intercept by hand? Sorry, an x-intercept by hand. Something you're supposed to memorize. You let y be what? 0. So if you do this algebraically, you'd say 0 equals 2 times x plus 1 times x minus 3. That says 0 equals 2 times something. How do you counteract multiplication? You divide the 2 out. Most times I teach this, we just ignore the 2. Now you have 0 equals x plus 1 times x minus 3. Yeah. If you don't know what Chris is talking about, it's because you're either not paying attention in the beginning or you're not watching the videos when I do the bonus questions. You're supposed to, this is actually called the zero product rule, you're supposed to cover a factor up and write down what it says. What does it say 0 equals? 0 equals x plus 1. Or 0 equals what? Those are one-step equations, aren't they? If you jump the positive 1 over, what do you get? Negative 1. Jump the negative 3 over, what do you get? 3. Whatever floats your boat on that. Hopefully you get to the point where if you start seeing parentheses, you realize you just change your signs when you leave. Hopefully you get to that point. So we have an x-intercept back here at negative 1. We have an x-intercept right here at 3. Now, I don't know that we need a formula to do this, but whatever, we have one. How do you find the middle of two things? Add them together and divide by 2. So I do negative 1 plus 3, sitting pretty over 2, and what do I get? 1. Worked out well. That's where my line of symmetry is, by the way. It's right there at 1. First thing, that's what I would have done on this problem in the first place. I would just draw a line of symmetry. Figure out x was 1. Now that you have x, how do you get y? So the original equation had a 2 in it. X is 1 now. 1 plus 1 times 1 minus 3. You understand what just happened there? Everywhere I saw an x, where I let it be, 1. Maybe do a little math. 0. I agree with -4. It's not 0, -4. What was the x value?
Probably not gonna hurt you. One.
1, -4. The right one, fall 4. And something you can here do it here as well if you want to, is you can actually kick this thing with the initial concept of slope. Pretty cool on this one, it actually works well. Prize 2 run 1. I'm not going to though. But there's your 3 points that you need. That's what she looks like. What's her domain?
Negative infinity.
What's the range?
Bracket, -4 infinity.
Blue knows it. Means everybody knows it. How's your brother, by the way?
Good. He went to Texas this morning. They started his job or something.
That's it, isn't it? Last thing you know. Do you remember you have a basics quiz tomorrow? You can thank ACT 3 to Chris and Micah because they said determinants were on the ACT, so I decided to put some ACT practice on determinants.